Entonces tiene la palabra el representante interino de Estados Unidos.
Thank you. I didn't want anybody to think that I was trying to line myself up to respond to anyone. So, Mr. Chairman, please allow me first to extend a warm welcome on behalf of the United States delegation to our newest colleague, Ambassador Hugo Saguier of Paraguay, whom I had the pleasure of having a very nice and long conversation yesterday. Our two countries have enjoyed a long-standing positive relationship, and we value Paraguay's partnership in a range of hemispheric initiatives. Ambassador Saguier, please allow me to offer you and your staff the complete friendship and support of my mission throughout your tenure here. I also want to thank you, Secretary General, for your report, and more than that, for your tireless efforts on behalf of a peaceful resolution of the situation in Honduras. Mr. Chairman, the time has more than come for the protagonists in this prolonged crisis to put the interests of the Honduran people above their own agendas, interests, and egos. This tragic affair must end, and it must end in a way that does not cause even more distress to the people of Honduras. We see and hear actors all too often who agree that in, quote, principle, this crisis should be resolved peacefully and by the Honduran people. Their subsequent actions, however, remind me of one of my favorite political philosophers, the words of Otto von Bismarck, who said that in politics, quote, when you say that you agree to a thing in principle, you mean that you have not the slightest intention of carrying it out in practice, end of quote. The Honduran people should get better than what they do now from many of their own politicians and unfortunately from some actors outside of Honduras seeking to take advantage of the turmoil and further it for their own ends. We reject all calls for violence or further disruption of the lives of the people of Honduras. Those inside and outside of Honduras tempted to provoke such disruption should restrain themselves for the sake of Honduras' people, and should do so both in principle and in practice. The OAS foreign ministers, in their visit to Honduras earlier this month, did not seek to take sides or impose an external solution on Honduras. The visit took place to show the people of Honduras that they are not alone, that the OAS, the region's premier international organization, supports a peaceful, negotiated way out of the crisis. A Honduran solution that restores respect for human rights, democratic institutions, and processes is what the OAS seeks. The Honduran people clearly want and more than deserve a functioning democracy and the opportunity to express their will in free and fair elections as to who will govern them beyond January of 2010. This comes across clearly in the letter sent to the Secretary General from Honduras' principal presidential candidates. Candidates, we note, democratically chosen by their respective political organizations well before the events that led to the June 28 coup. These candidates did not participate in the coup and have earned their positions thanks to the trust of voters, Honduran voters. On a positive note, we acknowledge that the regime finally rescinded the decrees, suspended civil liberties, and shutting 2 media outlets, a critical precondition for a free and fair vote. Mr. Chairman, these decrees, of course, never should have existed. We find no justification for assaulting the freedom of the media in Honduras or anywhere else, regardless of from where the assault comes or whatever convoluted, politically motivated excuses the perpetrators, whether of the right or the left, conjure up, including la dictadura mediática. On a less positive note, we take note of the troubling situation at the Brazilian embassy and assure our Brazilian friends that our embassy in Honduras will continue to try to help. We also find that in the most recent round of discussions, the de facto regime has not shown itself as flexible or willing to compromise, as has President Zelaya. We urge the de facto authorities to take the negotiations as seriously as President Zelaya does, and to view them, as he apparently does, as a way out of the current impasse. The talks should not serve as a means to stall or buy time. To use them for this purpose will prove self-defeating. It certainly will cause the United States, the best friend Honduras has, to continue to increase pressure on key regime personnel beyond even what we already have done. And quite frankly, we have applied the most pressure of any country. Accepting the arrangements painstakingly negotiated in the OAS-endorsed Guaymudas process, which used the OAS-endorsed San Jose Accord as its starting point, provides the most effective way for Hondurans to exit this protracted crisis, reestablish their institutions, and participate in a free and fair electoral process. All parties should help ensure that conditions exist for a free, fair, and transparent electoral process. All must cooperate to put an end to this nightmare, to trust the arrangements made by the Guaymudas negotiators, and to trust the people of Honduras to determine their own future. The OAS has been and is playing a vital role in the search for a way out of the mess caused by the June 28 coup and the unfortunate events that led to it. In our view, this organization, the OAS, must not be absent from the process of reestablishing democratic life in Honduras and helping ensure its viability beyond 2010. We, the member states, need to ensure that the OAS does not become irrelevant to the defense of democracy in Honduras and throughout the region. As Thomas Jefferson said some 200 years ago, quote, "The issue today is the same as it has been throughout all history, whether man shall be allowed to govern himself or be ruled by a small elite," end of quote. There should be no doubt as to where the OAS stands in that debate. Mr. Chairman, I want to end by quoting another U.S. President, Calvin Coolidge, who wisely said some words we might consider emblazoned on the walls here. Quote, "You can't know too much, but you can say too much." Thank you.
Gracias al representante interino de Estados Unidos. A continuación, el embajador de Chile.
Muchas gracias, presidente. En primer lugar,